Hello there, I'm Lisa Linfield. I'm a board-certified financial planner and I'm CEO of Southern Pride Wealth and also host of Working Women's Wealth podcast, available on your favorite podcast or music app. In the first podcast on the series, we talked through the real cost of debt, not just the total amount we spend when we uncover all the hidden fees and insurance, but also the things we miss out on because instead of spending our money on what we want to do, we end up paying for the lenders to go on holidays, paying for their kids, and doing the things that they want to do. In the previous article, we discussed 5 ways to lower the cost of your debt. Today, we're going to focus on the best way to pay off your debt. Now, there are 3 major ways people recommend to pay off your debt. The first is the Snowball method, where you pay the smallest one first, and then the next smallest, etc., etc. The second is the Avalanche method, where we pay the highest interest rate loan off first, and then the next highest interest rate. And the third one is that we consolidate all of our loans into one loan with a lower interest rate, such as a home loan, and pay off that one loan. So let's chat through them. The Snowball method is my favorite approach for most people. You see, my experience working with many people is that behavioral finance beats maths finance any day. So what do I mean by that? Well, there are a few amazing, talented human beings who operate like a textbook, always making great decisions with their finances. The problem when it comes to this discussion is that most of them aren't actually in debt because the maths of debt makes lenders rich, not them. The rest of us normal humans like the little kick that comes from ticking things off our list. Most of us hate the feeling of having so many open tabs in our brain of the many different places and people we owe money to. In addition, unlike many overseas countries, our monthly account fees and other items such as insurances and memberships all add up, often to far more than the actual interest. So the quicker you close your accounts, the quicker you stop paying this money. So when you start off by paying the smallest debt off and then closing that account, you quickly get a win, that feeling that you're making progress, and you quickly get to add all that money to the next debt, paying that one off way quicker. I found that feeling of having little wins along the way and closing off the debts motivates people that this is possible, and so they stick to the process of becoming debt-free for longer. Now, the Avalanche method is one that many people do recommend, and the reason they recommend it is that in theory, the maths is actually the best. By paying off the biggest interest rate item, you kill the biggest interest gobbling monster and get more money to pay off more debt quicker. The challenge with that is it comes down again to human behavior. Many of us buy things on credit, like cell phones and clothes and furniture, because we like the hit of happiness that comes from owning something new and nice now. We don't want to wait a long time to save the money for those things. So when you need to take a long time to pay off your first debt, many people actually lose hope and give up. You also carry on paying all those fees on the other accounts, which is why it's so important to go back to the first article we wrote to make sure that if you are going to use this method, you've taken into consideration all the fees you pay, not just the interest, to decide which one to pay off first. The main time I recommend this method is when you have one very large interest rate. Let's say your interest rates are 10%, 12%, 14%, and then there's one outlier of 35%. Then, depending on the fees and size of that loan, I may just recommend that you nail that 35% one, because the benefit of sticking to paying that off will be very big. The consolidation method. Now, this we're going to discuss in a little bit more detail next article, but for completeness, Let's introduce it here. Consolidation is when you move all the balances from your debt into one loan that hopefully has the lowest interest rate of all your loans. So let me start with what I like about this method. Firstly, mathematically, if you're able to reduce the interest rates on all your loans, you will pay less interest. So for the same monthly payment, you'll pay off your debt quicker. Secondly, you'll also close all those other accounts and stop paying all those monthly fees. And so again, more money goes to paying off the actual money you owe. Thirdly, you get to close a lot of those open tabs in your brain. It puts all the money in one place, so you only have one person to pay, which stops the bills and phone calls from all the others. It brings for many a deep sense of relief to only be tracking one debt. And lastly, for people who are under severe financial strain, they may be able to drop their monthly payments to the minimum level and free up some money to meet other needs. And for some, that's the difference between having money for food or transport to work and not. My big problem with this method is that from a human thinking perspective, it changes the task from lots of small doable hills to climb to one long, big, huge mountain that feels like it never ends. There are no wins along the way to keep you motivated, and many people drop the amount they're paying and free up money they then use to spend on things they don't need. Instead of running to the finish line of no debt, they stroll there taking longer and in the end paying way more interest and fees than they would have. A common example of this is when people consolidate into their home loan, and then they end up paying that 1,000 Rand debt off in 20 years, and it costs a lot more than just double what you originally bought it for. So which one is best for me? Now that's a question I get asked every single day from people, whether it's about investments or debt repayment or insurances, and my answer always is, it truly does depend on you, your personal circumstances, the way you think. Money success in the real world has so little to do with maths and over 90% to do with the way you think in those tiny, everyday moments when you're wanting to give up and spend it. But here's a guide using running as a metaphor. The long-distance marathon runner. So if you're very disciplined, will commit to paying every single spare cent you have to your debt to clear it as quickly as possible and have the mindset of a long-distance runner and are able to keep going despite the pain, then go for the consolidation method. The middle distance runner. Now, if you can manage for a moderate distance or have one very high interest rate, then do the Avalanche method. Choose the highest interest rate first, no matter how big or how long it'll take you to clear it. Keep your focus, pay every single spare cent you can, and make little milestones for yourself. If your debt is 20,000 Rand, for example, have a cost-free celebration every 2,500 Rand you pay off. Just make sure you do your homework properly, knowing, including monthly fees, which debt really costs you the most. The couch runner. If you're like most of us and need the feeling of celebrating quick wins, take the smallest debt first and pay it off. Close that account and add all the money you were paying to the first debt, to the next debt. Make sure that you don't spend that money now that you've closed your account. Because you have so much more money going to the second debt, you're going to pay it off much quicker and then take all of that money to the next debt. Managing money is all about managing your everyday thinking. I often liken it to your health. You don't wake up one day at 65 suddenly fat, unfit, and unhealthy. It's the result of every single decision you make along the way. And you don't wake up at 65 suddenly with no money to retire or in a lot of debt. Like your health, it's that moment in the day when you think, meh, I'm going to just eat that cake or spend that money. I'll try be healthy or financially wise tomorrow. Those moments add to your problems immediately. And, like your health, we also don't do the things that give us the best fighting chance for long-term success. When the alarm goes in the morning to exercise, we think, I'll start next week. Similarly, with our money, we also keep postponing the pain of dealing with debt or investing for our retirement. And then we wake up later on in our life and the problems have set in and are harder to fix. So this week, pick a way forward and commit every single day to the tiny decisions not to spend and to take that money and put it to your debt. Put the 20 Rand you would pay for a 2-litre Coke this week into paying off your debt, and by the end of the month, you would have paid 80 Rand more to your debt, beginning the magical process of being debt-free. I'm Lisa Linfield, and if you'd like to learn more, head to my podcast, Working Women's Wealth, on your podcast or music app. Take care. Have a great day.